This is a video to talk about diplomacy and strategy in Dominions. I've seen a lot of guides that focus on which units are good, which spells to cast with which nations, what research goals to get, and so on. And I think there's plenty of those videos, but I haven't seen many good videos about how to actually win games, which is not about which units to build. It's more about your strategy. That said, making lots of tactical mistakes like building the wrong units and going for the wrong spells, that will make you lose as well. But just by being good at the game and making good tactical decisions does not guarantee that you're going to win games consistently. In my opinion, the most important things to win games is to control which wars you're in and have good diplomacy and good strategy. You don't have to be the best player in the game to win or have the best knowledge, because mastery of the game wins you battles. But if you're not fighting the right battles, then you're not going to win the game. So what is diplomacy in Dominions? I'm going to use this to kind of outline what I'm going to talk about in this video. So in general, diplomacy is talking and behaving in a way that gives you valuable outcomes. And how do you do that? You build good relationships with other players. You influence wars to happen or to end that are useful to you. You trade into new capabilities and profits. And you do good intel gathering and plan and prepare for things that will come in the future. You have predictable and profitable wars. So how do you build relationships in Dominions? This should be pretty obvious, but time and time again I see people being toxic and doing things that are, maybe they're just not emotionally stable or whatever, but this is just to outline things that are conducive towards winning the game. So one of the things that you want to do is reach out to people. When you do your scouting at the beginning of the game, and you should do scouting, you should make first contact with people. If they make first contact with you, that's good as well. But you want to make sure that you're talking with everybody that you come across, and that you have some sort of positive relationship with them. Fighting people who you're talking with is emotionally more difficult than attacking someone who doesn't talk. You want to be everyone's best friend. Again, because attacking people that you get along with is a bit more difficult than attacking people that you don't like. And if you're everybody's best friend, or you try to be, then that means that you're less likely to be attacked by other people. You want to be charming in public, so make jokes. You don't want to be being annoying or spamming or anything like that. Cracking good jokes and just being entertaining to have in the game also helps you. You also want to consider how other people perceive you, whether they think that you're a threat, and if they do, then you probably want to either use that to your advantage somehow by saying, hey, do you want to attack this person with me, because to them that means that you're not going to attack them. It also means if they are afraid of you, then they're probably not going to go and fight someone else unless they feel like they have security that you're not going to attack them. And the other thing is that if they're afraid of you, they're also might be plotting against you and getting other players to join them in some kind of group alliance against you. So you want to know how other people feel about you, and you want to make everybody feel safe. to some degree, you want to help others achieve their goals, because this is something that people will feel a debt of gratitude for. Of course, you shouldn't help them if these goals harm you. But, for example, if somebody wants to defeat another player who they really don't like, and there's no reason that them doing so would be negative for you, then you should help them. If people want to unlock certain magic capabilities, for example, then you should help them get that. As long as these things don't injure you, you should always try to help other people. And at the end of the day, you want to be developing loyalty towards yourself and building alliances with players. So people that feel like they're never going to fight you, and they would fight in your favor, even if it was not in their best interest. And there's a bunch of things that you shouldn't do. So one of these is begging, in showing signs of weakness. You don't want to screech in public about how someone is, skull fucking you and you're being completely destroyed by their invasion. This doesn't help you. This just encourages other people to vulture. You want to show how much damage you're inflicting to someone who you don't like. So other people, as long as you're the one who is the underdog, you want to be showing everybody else how well you're doing. You don't want to threaten other players, because it just aggravates them, and it at best it just aggravates them, and at worst you actually reveal elements of your strategy and things that you can do, because which gives them an advantage against you, because you're basically showing them your hand in poker, so to speak. They know that you're going to do X, so they're going to do Y to counter it. You don't want to rub salt into people's wounds. This will basically cause people to hate you, and if they play with you again, then they're going to basically try to kill you, regardless of what else is happening in the game. Because it's going to give them great satisfaction to do it. So you really don't want to, if you're defeating somebody, you want to be graceful in victory. You don't want to leak information to people. So although sometimes it might be seem like it's useful to do so, you really don't want to do this, because if people see that you're leaking information to them, then they're going to know that if they say something to you, you're probably going to leak that to someone else. So, you might kind of get a very short-term benefit out of it, but long-term, it just means that everyone's going to not trust you, and it's going to make your diplomatical maneuvering extremely difficult. You don't want to break naps easily. When I say easily, what I mean is you do want to break naps when it makes sense to do so. For example, if someone's throne rushing, if someone is trying to be funny and take provinces that independents took from you, like you got a bad event, and then they take the province from the independents and then they pretend that everything's okay. I think that you can basically treat those as nap breaking. If someone who is your neighbor and they're being completely getting their shit kicked in by someone else, I don't think that you need to wait for them to die, or to wait for 3 turns for them to lose a whole bunch of extra provinces and for those to go to your soon-to-be new neighbor. Vulturing people that are near death, I think, is perfectly fine. But I think that you just need to be careful about how you do this, and you don't want to, if someone gets attacked, you don't want to immediately just go and attack them straight away. You want to wait until they are weakened so badly by their war that they basically can't resist if you attack them. And when you do that, then you can kind of argue that, well, I'm not really breaking a nap. I'm preventing the person that's attacking you from being fed and snowballing. And that's generally what I do. You don't want to. So this is kind of about leaking information, but you don't want to take screenshots of conversations that you have in private with people, post them into public chat, like, hey, this person broke a nap with me, or this person said this and then they did Y. That kind of behavior in general just really has small dick energy, and people are going to disrespect you if you do that. I think that when you do that, it kind of just makes everybody think that you're a bitch, and it's kind of like, I haven't really been in many games where people are winning and they have to resort to doing this sort of thing. If you end up in a situation where you get backstabbed and you just completely like fall apart because of some trickery that other people did, as much as it hurts, that's part of the game. Being in a position where it's very good for someone else to backstab you, as long as that person is, you haven't been doing these things, so they're not loyal to you, they don't like you, and all you have is a nap with them or something, or I don't know, some agreement that you're not going to fight, and then they betray you. You've kind of it's as much, it is kind of your fault in a way, because you allowed yourself to be in that position. If you had a neighbor who was in a war with someone else and you helped organize that war or make it happen, that person is not going to backstab you. So you don't need to, worry about being backstabbed, because you've created a very strong position for yourself. And that's, I think that, DM dumping is pretty pathetic. And you also don't want to brag. So if you're winning, if you're in a strong position, you don't want people to see that you're in a strong position, unless, or if you do, it must be very targeted. You really don't want to post like, oh, here's my gold income, guys, or here's how much I slaughtered some person I'm fighting, because all that does is just spread fear. And if you start fear-mongering against yourself, then you're going to end up with a coalition against you. And quite often, what I see happen in games is, and this happens a lot to players who are really good, but don't really socialize very much, or they just, or they're quite arrogant and up themselves. They'll do really well, and they'll kind of snowball to a certain point, but if they don't snowball enough to be able to defeat everybody at once, then they will get overwhelmed by everybody else ganging up on them. And then what happens is the person who reaches the number one position in the game is not the one who wins. The one who wins is the person who reaches the number 2 or number 3 position, because they are going to be the ones that lead the coalition against the number 1. And as long as the number 1 player is not bigger than everybody else around them put together, they'll die. And then the next person that wins will be number 2 or number 3. So one of the important things is influencing wars and trying to prevent people from fighting that you don't want to fight. So something that you always need to keep in mind is that all your neighbors are risks. If they're not attacking you now, they might be attacking you in the future. They might steal thrones that you want, or useful provinces. They might cut you off. So neighbors are really, they might be your friends, but they're going to be friends for only temporarily, and by default they're enemies. Your neighbor's neighbors, however, they're all your friends. So, with a few exceptions, when it's someone who, for example, is snowballing, and you know that inevitably they're going to end up being your neighbor, you don't want to be, making friends with someone who's going to end up being your neighbor in the near future, and they're completely unstoppable or snowballing. But otherwise, you really want to find out who your neighbors are, and you want to make sure that these two, your neighbors and their neighbors, are all fighting each other. Because if you do that, then you can decide. You can basically pick who you want to fight. So say you have 5 neighbors, and they cumulatively, those 5 neighbors have 10 neighbors. You end up, say, influencing all 5 of your neighbors to end up fighting, 1 or 2 other people of their neighbors. And you won't be, it's pretty much impossible to influence every single war, but say you manage to set up a whole bunch of them, then you're in a position where all 5 of the players around you are fighting someone else, and you can choose who you want to attack. So out of the 5 neighbors that you have, you can choose which one is the best one for you to attack, and you have an extra person in that fight. You can potentially go and vulture the other players as well if they're, if your other neighbors start dying, you can go and vulture them. Fighting one against many is very hard, so you really don't want to end up in this position, and you really want your enemies to end up in this position. And even if someone's really good at the game, at the end of the day, if you have, to fight efficiently, you need to have a certain amount of strength in your army to be able to trade profitably against some enemy. You need gems, you need units. And say if you have 100 infantry versus 100 infantry, then you're going to take a lot of casualties. If you have 1,000 infantry versus 100, then you're probably going to kill the 100 infantry with 1,000 with much fewer casualties. The thing is that if you're fighting a multiple front war, then your strength of your armies is divided to defend multiple fronts of attack. And by doing so, even if you're good at the game, you're better than all the people attacking you. You still, you're fighting them with, with only one hand against one guy and another hand against another guy. You can't put your full strength into it, and therefore, the fights that you do have, you have less force in it, and you have worse trades. So, and this is one of the reasons why you might also want to organize good gang-ups against other people, because although you don't get as much land from conquering them, you do get that land much faster than you would otherwise if you're fighting by yourself, if they're a tough opponent. And the other thing is that you end up suffering less casualties, so you can preserve a lot of your strength while you're fighting one person, and by preserving your strength, it deters other people from attacking you, and it lets you go to your next war with a much stronger hand. The other thing is, so low-hanging fruit to snowball. So when you pick your wars, if you want to win the game, you want to snowball. You should, this is pretty straightforward, but basically you should attack the weakest player all the time to get the most land as possible. There's a couple exceptions to this, like for example, if you see another player who's snowballing and you know that they're snowballing faster than you, and it's better for you to attack them before, while they're still weak, and then and then kind of save your lower hanging fruit for later. Sometimes you have situations like that, but in general, when you pick wars, you want to pick the easiest ones. And conversely, you want your rivals to get into bad wars. So if you're standing next to somebody and they're thinking about, and you have some way to influence who they fight by, talking to them, or, convincing people into to join your one versus many coalitions. You can be in multiple fights like this, say 2 or 3 at once, by basically having another person in each of your wars. So say if you have 3 neighbors, and against each of your neighbors you have another person attacking them, and you're at war with all 3 neighbors. You're fighting 1v3, but each of them is fighting 2v1. So even in that situation, it depends on what the kind of balance of forces is. It's not great for you, but you can, if you can manage it, grab more land that way. And you want your rivals to be in bad wars. So if you can sometimes start a war, a 2v1 for example, but then eject out of it and say, hey, you take one province, or you just you bow out from the war, and you put another player against another player 1v1. They're both going to be in a slugfest for a long time, and then you might go and snowball while they're doing that. Those kind of betrayals are quite people remember it, but if you can, try to influence your enemies into fighting difficult fights. And you want to control good and bad matchups for yourself. So for example, if you are Maragnon, like middle-aged Maragnon, and one of your opponents is middle-aged Tis, if you've reached the mid game and they have foul vapors, you probably don't. It's not a good matchup for you unless you have some way to protect your soldiers from poison vapors, or you have mass flight or something like that. You have some way of dealing with foul vapors, or you can kill them faster than they can kill you. You really want to avoid those kinds of wars. Conversely, you just want to be aware of these matchups when you set up wars for other people. Another important aspect of diplomacy is trading. So what you can't get through naturally, you really want to consider being able to get boosters for it. And quite often people only trade for one booster if they can't get it otherwise. So you really want to be the guy that people go to get their boosters. So if you're Pangea in Ulm, for example, and you have another player shopping around for earth boots, as long as if you've been doing the other things that I've said and talking to people and kind of breaking the ice, they're going to come to you and ask you for to make a booster for them, and you can charge a good markup on that booster. You can say no, but then they'll go to your enemy and they'll get the markup. So I think that most of the time, if people ask you for boosters, you should make them as long as it's within reason. And you should also try to get boosters for yourself as much as you can. You can trade better than 1-to-1 for gems sometimes. So if you've been talking to people and you know the kinds of things that they need, for example, they're about to cast a global and they want gems straight away to cast something, or they're at war with somebody and they need gems right now to at a crucial junction in that war, you can be a vulture and trade better than 1-to-1 with them in those situations. So it's important to kind of be aware of what's happening so you can capitalize on these. And lastly, profit trading. So quite often when people sell items, depending on what's happening in the game, but I've been quite often been able to get away with selling items for their cost plus 1 gem for the mage turn, but then I'll make the item with a dwarven hammer. So I'll sell a 5 gem item for 6 gems, but it actually costs me only 3 gems to make it. And if you have lots of dwarven hammers, like say 10, then this is basically like 20 gems per turn, or 30 if you conclude the Mars. So 30 gems per turn is it adds up very quickly. It's like having a global. So you really want to try actively looking for trades, ask people what they need, and so on. Don't wait for people to come to you and make profit on them. Last section is about gathering intel. So this is really critical for being able to make good decisions about wars, and being able to make the wars that you do choose more predictable and successful. So one of the important things that you need is spell access. This is very important. You need to know what spells your opponents have. If they have a pretender, for example, that is a monolith, and they're playing a nation that doesn't have astral, for example, or nature, or earth, you need to know that they have the capability to teleport on top of your army, cast hell and earthquake or something, or meteor shower. So if you're fighting Kates, you need to know if they have foul vapors or grip of winter. It's before you get into wars, it's good to know what spells your opponent has access to and be prepared for them, because there's no point getting into a war if you don't know if they have a spell that's going to kick your ass and you have no way of dealing with it. There's no point getting into that war, because you're just going to lose. And likewise, if you get into a war without knowing that they can do something, then you're really kind of throwing your position in the game to chance. They might have a spell that completely just F's you up, or they might not. And if you want to win games consistently or come out near the top, you really need to be more aware of what your opponents can do. You want to also know who's fighting who. So I think this is pretty obvious, but you need to know who your neighbors are already fighting, or your neighbors' neighbors, because sometimes the opportunities that you're not the one that creates the opportunities for you to snowball or make a profit. The opportunities create themselves, but you need to be aware of what's happening to be able to capitalize on them. You need to also know who's planning to fight who. So this is something that you can get out of conversations and just kind of asking people what they think about someone else, or what they think about, say if you have a neighbor who's Ermor, and you have a neighbor who is Flegger or something, and you say, well, Flegger, what do you think about Ermor? I'm kind of worried about this and this. And they might sympathize or, empathize with you and say, well, yeah, I'm kind of worried about it as well. So, well, maybe we should do something about it. And, or they might tell you that, well, actually, I was planning on dealing with it as well, but I'm waiting until I get earthquake. So you need to, and you find that out, and then you know that you need to, wait a little while so that your ally in the war has access to some key spell that they need. So this is really, I think that all these kinds of things are obvious, but I'm just pointing it out that, you need to plan ahead, basically. It's also worth knowing who doesn't like who. So some games people have personal beefs, and it's this is kind of hard to find out, but basically, if you know that somebody doesn't like someone else, perhaps you can see that from the way that they talk to each other in chat, then you know that basically that's a free win. You can basically get person A doesn't like person B. That means that whether you choose to ally with A against B or B against A, that's an easy, predictable thing that you can use to improve your own position in the game. So in conclusion, I hope that you have learned a bit from this and have the kind of wherewithal now to win your games consistently. Myself, I've used to play Dominions purely just for the diplomatic shenanigans, and I think that if you talk to most of the people on the big Discord servers, they'll tell you that I do a lot of diplomancy, people call it. And I quite often come out in the top 2-3 if I don't win the game outright. And most of the games that I do play, I control pretty much every fight that I'm in. So as long as all the wars that I'm in are the ones that I choose, then I pretty much win the game. Because it's like a math equation. As long as you control when and who you fight, then you choosing who and when you fight when it's profitable for you, and you likewise, and conversely for your opponents, you do the opposite. You kind of create bad fights for them, or you encourage them to get into wars that are bad for them. Then eventually your advantage will accrue over time. And even if you end up fighting against somebody who is better than you at the game, if you've been profiting the whole game and growing, then ultimately you should have an overwhelming advantage and be able to win.